Out Ram Rock.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming again tonight. Today we are going to dedicate this evening's reading to two wonderful devotees, both dear disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Firstly, there is His Grace Balavanta Prabhu, who was a founding member of Murari Sevak Farm, who is our local ISKCON farm here in Tennessee. And unfortunately, he had a heart attack a couple of days ago, and is in yesterday and is in hospital awaiting a heart operation. So we send our um, best wishes to him. And so we're also dedicating to Her Grace Krishna Priya, who is also a Prabhupada disciple, and she is in her final stages of leaving this body. And so we send our prayers to her, and to both of them, we pray that Lord Krishna and Lord Gauranga will hold them tightly in their embrace at this difficult time.
Very good.
All right, then, and now I shall pass you over to another dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who fortunately hasn't got those serious health issues right now and is still with us. So Gayatri Prabhu, if you wouldn't mind taking us through this evening's reading.
Definitely be happy to do that. Hare Krishna, everybody. Glad you're here with us tonight. So, if you don't know these two personalities that Rangavati just mentioned, you should, because they're wonderful, saintly people and have done so much devotional service for Srila Prabhupada, for Krishna in the world, and their health is failing. And most Prabhupada disciples now are in their 70s. And, it's getting time. It's getting time. So we're trying to record some of this information for posterity's sake and just speak a few things about Krishna tonight. And particularly in this chapter, the birth of Lord Krishna is about as good as it gets. Srimad Bhagavatam culminates literally in the story of Sri Krishna. And it says, Prabhupada said in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that if one goes through each canto, one after the next, without skipping over, when they get to the 10th canto, they will have an understanding and a realization of who God is and what God looks like, where God lives, what God has been doing. In the Bible, it says that he created the earth in 7 days. We haven't heard from him since, right? Or maybe we've heard from him in the voice from a sky or a burning bush or this or that. But the Bhagavatam is very clear about who the personality of Godhead is. His name is Krishna. He is an eternally blooming youth. He doesn't grow old. He's not some old man on a cloud with a gavel sending everyone to hell. We send ourselves to hell if we decide to. That's our choice. We don't have to go there. We have a choice. We have free will. And if we turn our free will towards the will of God and we use our will and give it to the will of God, then certainly we will achieve liberation at the end of this life. And there'll be no more birth, no more death, no more old age, no more disease. And we can live happily in our original form in our spiritual bodies in the spiritual sky. So that's the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the goal of these classes. And so this is one of the most wonderful chapters you could ever hope to have. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start by offering my respects to my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Say it with me if you know it. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta, Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devim, Gaudavani Pracharane, Nirvishesha, Sunyavari Paschat Yadishitarane, Jaya Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Garadhara, Srivas, Arigoda Bhaktavrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Very nice. So this is Canto 10, Srimad Bhagavatam, third chapter, Birth of Lord Krishna. And as usual, I'll begin, and then we would like to invite anyone to read who wants to. Just raise your hand or just chime in. We're reading about 10 or 15 verses each, and so I'll start with the first ones. Text 1 through 5. Thereafter, at the auspicious time for the appearance of the Lord, the entire universe was surcharged with all the qualities of goodness, beauty, and peace. The constellation Rohini appeared, as did stars like Ashvini. The sun, the moon, and the other stars and planets were very peaceful. All directions appeared extremely pleasing, and the beautiful stars twinkled in the cloudless sky. Decorated with towns, villages, mines, and pasturing grounds, the earth seemed all auspicious. The rivers flowed with clear water, and the lakes and vast reservoirs full of lilies and lotuses were extraordinarily beautiful. In the trees and green plants, full of flowers and leaves, pleasing to the eyes, birds like cuckoos and swarms of bees began chanting with sweet voices for the sake of the demigods. A pure breeze began to blow, pleasing the sense of touch and bearing the aroma of flowers. And when the Brahmanas engaged in ritualistic ceremonies ignited their fires according to the Vedic principles, the fires burned steadily, undisturbed by the breeze. Thus, when the birthless Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to appear, the saints and Brahmanas, who had always been disturbed by demons like Kamsa and his men, felt peace within the core of their hearts, and kettle drums simultaneously vibrated from the upper planetary systems. The Kinnaras and the Gandharvas began to sing auspicious songs. The Siddhas and the Charanas offered auspicious prayers, and the Vidyaharis, along with the Apsaras, began to dance in jubilation. The demigods and great saintly persons showered flowers in a joyous mood, and clouds gathered in the sky and very mildly thundered, making sounds like those of the ocean waves. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who was situated in the core of everyone's heart, appeared from the heart of Devaki in the dense darkness of night, like the full moon rising on the eastern horizon, because Devaki was of the same category as Sri Krishna. Vasudeva then saw the newborn child, who had very wonderful lotus-like eyes and who bore in his four hands the four weapons Sankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. On his chest were the marks of Srivats, and on his neck the brilliant Kaustubha gem. Dressed in yellow, his body blackish like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable Vaidurya stone, the gem. The child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful. When Vasudeva saw his extraordinary son, his eyes were struck with wonder. In transcendental jubilation, he mentally collected 10,000 cows and distributed them among the Brahmanas as a transcendental festival. O Maharaj Pariksit, descendant of King Bharat, Vasudeva could understand that this child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Having concluded this without a doubt, he became fearless. Bowing down with folded hands and concentrating his attention, he began to offer prayers to the child who illuminated his birthplace by his natural influence. Vasudeva said, who would like to read from there? Read what Vasudeva said. Please pick it up at 13.
I can read, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Vasudev said, My Lord, you are the Supreme Person beyond material existence, and you are the Super Soul. Your form can be perceived by transcendental knowledge, by which you can be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I now understand your position perfectly. My Lord, you are the same person who in the beginning created this material world by his personal external energy. After the creation of this world of three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, you appear to have entered it, although in fact you have not. The Mahatattva, the total material energy, is undivided, but because of the material modes of nature, it appears to separate into earth, water, fire, air, ether. Because of the living energy, Jiva Bhuta, these separated energies combine to make the cosmic manifestation visible. But in fact, before the creation of the cosmos, the total energy is already present. Therefore, the total material energy never actually enters the creation. Similarly, although you are perceived by our senses, because of your presence, you cannot be perceived by the senses, nor experienced by the mind or words. Avan manasa gochara. With our senses, we can perceive some things, but not everything. For example, we can use our eyes to see, but not to taste. Consequently, you are beyond perception by the senses. Although in touch with the modes of material nature, you are unaffected by them. You are the prime factor in everything, the all pervading, undivided supersoul. For you, therefore, there is no external or internal. You never entered the womb of Devaki, rather, you existed there already. One who considers his visible body, which is a product of the three modes of nature, to be independent of the soul, is unaware of the basis of existence, and therefore he is a rascal. Those who are learned have rejected this conclusion because one can understand through full discussion that with no basis in soul, the visible body and the senses would be insubstantial. Nonetheless, although his conclusion has been rejected, a foolish person considers it a reality. O my Lord, learned Vedic scholars conclude that the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the entire cosmic manifestation are performed by you, who are free from endeavor, unaffected by the modes of material nature, and changeless in your spiritual situation. There are no contradictions in you, who are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman. Because the three modes of material nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas, are under your control, everything takes place automatically. My Lord, your form is transcendental to the three material modes, yet, for the maintenance of the three worlds, you assume the white color of Vishnu in goodness for creation, which is surrounded by the quality of passion. You appear reddish, and at the end, when there is a need for annihilation, which is surrounded by ignorance, you appear blackish. O my Lord, proprietor of all creation, you have now appeared in my house, desiring to protect this world. I am sure that you will kill all the armies that are moving all over the world under the leadership of politicians who are dressed as Kshatriya rulers, but who are factually demons. They must be killed by you for the protection of innocent public. My Prabhu will read now.
Anyone else like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
O my Lord, Lord of the demigods, after hearing the prophecy that you would take birth in our home and kill him, this uncivilized Kamsa killed so many of your elder brothers. As soon as he hears from his lieutenants that you have appeared, he will immediately come with weapons to kill you. Sukadeva Goswami continued, thereafter, having seen that her child had all the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Devaki, who was very much afraid of Kamsa and unusually astonished, began to offer prayers to the Lord. Sri Devaki said, my dear Lord, there are different Vedas, some of which described you as unperceivable through the words and the mind. Yet, you are the origin of the entire cosmic manifestation. You are Brahman. the greatest of everything, full of effulgence like sun. You have no material cause. You are free from change and deviation. You have no material desires. Thus, the Vedas say that you are the substance. Therefore, my Lord, you are directly the origin of all Vedic statements, and by understanding you, one gradually understands everything. You are different from the light of Brahman and Paramatma, yet you are not different from them. Everything emanates from you. Indeed, you are the cause of all causes. Lord Vishnu, the light of all transcendental knowledge. After millions of years, at the time of cosmic annihilation, when everything manifested and unmanifested is annihilated by the force of time, the five gross elements enter into the subtle conception, and the manifested categories enter into the unmanifested substance. At that time, you alone remain, and you are known as Ananta Sheshanaga. O inaugurator of the material energy, this wonderful creation works under the control of powerful time, which is divided into seconds, minutes, hours, and years. This element of time, which extends for many millions of years, is but another form of the Lord Vishnu. For your pastimes, you act as the controller of time, but you are the reservoir of all the good fortune. Let me offer my full surrender unto you, unto your lordship. Thank you, Prabhuji. If someone wants to take.
Thank you.
Prabhu,
Okay. Who else we got? Vamsi, you ready? I see Vamsi, but he may not be with us. Ranga, you want to read?
Okay. No one in this material world no one in this material world has become free from the four principles: birth, death, old age, and disease, even by fleeing to various planets. But now that you have appeared, my Lord, death is fleeing in fear of you, and the living entities, having obtained shelter at your lotus feet by your mercy, are sleeping in full mental peace. My Lord, because you have dispelled all the fear of your devotees, I request you to save us and give us protection from the terrible fear of Kamsa. Your form as Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is appreciated by yogis in meditation. Please make this form invisible to those who see with material eyes. O Madhusudana, because of your appearance, I am becoming more and more anxious in fear of Kamsa. Therefore, please arrange for that sinful Kamsa to be unable to understand that you have taken birth from my womb. O my Lord, you are the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your transcendental four-armed form, holding conch shell, disc, club, and lotus, is unnatural for this world. Please withdraw this form and become just like a natural human child, so that I may try to hide you somewhere. At the time of devastation, the entire cosmos, containing all created moving and non-moving entities, enters your transcendental body and is held there without difficulty. But now this transcendental form has taken birth from my womb. People will not be able to believe this, and I shall become an object of ridicule. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, my dear mother, best of the chaste, in your previous birth, in the Swayambhuva millennium, you were known as Pishni and Vasudev, who was the most pious Prajapati. Let me read that again because I didn't get the thing right. You were known as Pushni, And Vasudev, who was the most pious Prajapati, was named Satapa. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. My dear father and mother, you endured rain, wind, strong sun, scorching heat, and severe cold, suffering all sorts of inconvenience according to different seasons. By practicing pranayama to control the air within the body through yoga, and by eating only air and dry leaves fallen from the trees, you cleansed from your minds all dirty things. In this way, desiring a benediction from me, you worshipped me with peaceful minds. Thus you spent 12,000 celestial years performing difficult activities of tapasya in in consciousness of me, Krishna consciousness. O sinless Mother Devaki, after the expiry of 12,000 celestial years in which you constantly contemplated me within the core of your heart with great faith, devotion, and austerity, I was very much satisfied with you. Since I am the best of all bestowers and benedictions, I appeared in this same form as Krishna to ask you to take from me the benediction you desired. You then expressed your desire to have a son exactly like me. I think that's my 10 if someone wants to take over.
Yeah, I see Vamsi over there. He looks like he's ready to roll. Go for it,
Yes,
Vamsi.
thank you very much, Prabhuji and
Hey,
Mataji. Next 39. Being husband and wife, but always sonless, you were attracted by sexual desires, for by the influence of Devamaya, transcendental love, you wanted to have me as your son. Therefore, you never desired to be liberated from this material world. After you received that benediction and I disappeared, you engaged yourself in sex to have a son like me, and I fulfilled your desire. Since I found no one else as highly elevated as you in simplicity and other qualities of good character, I appeared in the world as Prishnigarbha, or one who is celebrated as having taken birth from Krishna. In the next millennium, I again appeared from the two of you who appeared as my mother Aditi and my father Kashyapa. I was known as Upendra and because of being a dwarf, I was also known as Vamana. O supremely chaste mother, I, the same personality, have now appeared as you both as your son for the third time. Take my words as the truth. I have shown you this form of Vishnu just to remind you of my previous births. Otherwise, if I appeared like an ordinary human child, you would not believe that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu has indeed appeared. Both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to Godhead. Sukadev Goswami said, after thus instructing his father and mother, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna remained silent. In their presence, by his internal energy, he then transformed himself into a small human child. In other words, he transformed himself into his original form, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Thereafter, exactly when Vasudev, being inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to take the newborn child from the delivery room, Yogamaya, the Lord's spiritual energy, took birth as the daughter of the wife of Maharaj Nanda. By the influence of Yogamaya, all the doorkeepers fell fast asleep, their senses unable to work, and the other inhabitants of the house also fell deeply asleep. When the sun rises, the darkness automatically disappears. Similarly, when Vasudeva appeared, the closed doors, which were strongly pinned with iron and locked with iron chains, opened automatically. Since the clouds in the sky were merely thundering and showering, Anantanaga, an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, followed Vasudeva, beginning from the door with the hoods expanded to protect Vasudeva and the transcendental child. Because of constant rain sent by the demigod Indra, the river Yamuna was filled with deep water, foaming about with fiercely whirling waves. But as the great Indian Ocean had formerly given way to Lord Ramchandra by allowing him to construct a bridge, the river Yamuna gave way to Vasudeva and allowed him to cross. When Vasudeva reached the house of Nanda Maharaj, he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. Thus he placed his own son on the bed of Yashoda, picked up her daughter, an expansion of Yoga Maya, and then returned to his residence, the prison house of Kamsa. Exhausted by labor of childbirth, Yashoda was overwhelmed with sleep and unable to understand what kind of child had been born to her. Hare Krishna. This ends Bhaktivedanta purport of the 10th Canto, third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Birth of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That was very, very nice. All right. Well, that's a fairly short one, really. 51. We're used to doing a couple at a time, but because this is so important, I think we'll discuss this and not go on to the next chapter. So, and we might get out of here in an hour tonight. You never know. It's possible. So, okay. Well, do you have any points or questions anybody wants to go over? And then we'll recap this chapter. Anything anybody sees in there that they want to bring out first? Or we can just start recapping. And then if you hear something you want to add, you're certainly welcome to do that.
It seems like the Lord wanted to be the son of Devaki and Vasudeva 3 times. They only asked for once, and the Lord is
Well, he gave them more than they paid for.
yeah.
You know, that's unusual, isn't it? To get more than you bargained for. But the Lord, he was very happy to have them because actually, he was as who was it, Sutapa. He was actually a Prajapati, and he was considered to be the most pious of all the Prajapatis. So he, out of all the Prajapatis, were the progenitors of mankind and all the living entities. Sutapa was the most pious. And so as a result, that's the one the Lord took as his father, which I thought was a very appropriate thing to do. So that's a good point. Yes. Well, you know, we just read in the previous chapter, I don't know if you remember what it said. It says, for those who are completely in love with the Lord. Think about that just for a minute. Being completely in love with the Lord, right? In the material world, we find that most people are not actually completely in love with the Lord. They may be afraid of the Lord, and they may act in fear. They may have some curiosity about the Lord. But to be completely in love with the Lord, you have to kind of know who the Lord is. So if you don't know, they say to know him is to love him, right? So what do you know about God? I mean, most people, if you ask them, they will tell you that I would be surprised what you might hear, actually. But as a Christian child, I was always told, don't question the Lord. And that's not what the Srimad Bhagavatam is about. The Srimad Bhagavatam is about analyzing the pastimes, the activities, the entourage, the incarnations of God, and to ask all these questions until the soul is satisfied. And in that way, a person can understand God. That's why we were saying earlier, before we started the class, Prabhupada said in the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam 10 cantos ago, he said if a person will simply go through the Srimad Bhagavatam one canto at a time, even though it's not chronologically in order necessarily, but to go through it one at a time, hear about the incarnations of God before we get to Krishna, then we will know God perfectly well. So much so that we are convinced of who God is, what's the purpose of life, who are we, how are we connected to all of that. These basic questions are called Tato Brahma Jigyasa. The Tato Brahma Jigyasa means, who am I? What am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going when I go? Who is God? What is the purpose of this world? Most people do not know. They think that the purpose of the world is the same purpose that the animals have, which is to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. And so even though they may be doing it in big skyscraper, sleeping in big skyscraper, or they may be eating some, I don't even want to talk about the types of food that people eat, but they think that's enjoyment. Somehow or another, that's the purpose of this life, simply to eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we die, right? That's a demoniac concept. So our goal and the purpose of Bhakti Yoga, the purpose of the Bhagavatam, is so that we may all fall deeply in love with God. So much so that we remember God at the time of death. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, now this is Krishna's small child, is the birth of Krishna, advent of Krishna here. But later, as he becomes king of Dwarka and so forth and so on, we can see his activities. We know who he is. We know what he did while he was here. It's fully documented. Anybody can understand literally the miraculous activities of the Lord, which no one can equal. No one can be equal to or greater than. So that's the idea. So if we fall completely in love with God, that's the purpose of the entire yoga system. And Krishna is also known as Yogaswara. So in the Bhagavad Gita, he teaches Ashtanga Yoga as a path back home to Godhead. This was a path that was recommended in previous yugas, not in the present yuga, because it's very, very difficult, a path of yoga. And but he says that a person, even though it's very difficult, a person can obtain him through Ashtanga Yoga, through meditation, constant meditation on the form of the Lord. This is the purpose of, Patanjali talked about that at the very end of his Yoga Sutras. He talked about that, how the goal of all of these activities, all this asana, all this breathing, all of this meditation was to focus the mind on the form of God. So throughout Bhagavatam, we hear about the form of God. So in this particular chapter, we hear that the Lord appeared before Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison house of Kamsa, that he appeared fully clothed, ornamented with Kaustubha jewel, Srivats, all of the things that you would expect, club, conch shell disc, loaded, all of that is there, all of it. And he showed that to them and explained who he was, that he had been their son in previous lives, even though they didn't remember. You might remember what Krishna said to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Many, many births, Arjuna, you and I have taken. I can remember them, but you cannot. He spoke this science to his sun god. Arjuna couldn't understand. He said, sun god's senior to you. How is it possible? So Krishna explains that we've taken many births. So with Arjuna, this story is continual. It goes on forever. In this situation, we know that these personalities experienced the Lord as their son 3 times, right? So those 3 times was Prishni. He's known as Prishni Garba, the son of Prishni, Sutapa, and then later as Vamana, and through Kashyapa and Aditi. And then in this particular situation, Devaki and Vasudeva. So the Lord has been very clear about that. He said, you wouldn't believe me if I didn't appear like this. So then he took his Swarup city, or Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Means Krishna, even though he became small baby, this is his original form. So there's a month out of the year called, we do prayers called Dharma Darastikam. the baby. We worship Krishna as a small child in that form. And for a month, we sing this beautiful song called Dharma Darastikam, which reminds us of the beauty of this child and of the activities of Lord Krishna in this situation. So, kind of to recap this chapter a little bit, Krishna is beyond material existence. He never enters into this material world. Everything takes place automatically. The Lord, it says in one place in the Bhagavatam, it says that Krishna actually never leaves Goloka Vrindavan. He never actually leaves the spiritual sky. But he expands himself into portions and portions of plenary portions and expansions and so forth and so on. So when he comes here for the benefit of the whole world. As a matter of fact, he appeared to enter into the material world, yet he has not entered into the material world. And this is not a contradiction. That's what it discussed in this chapter, that it is not a contradiction. There is no contradiction in the Lord. So how does he appear in the material world, yet not be a part of it? Krishna said to Arjuna, behold my mystic opulence. Remember that? After he showed the universal form. And Arjuna could realize the prowess and the potency of Lord Krishna. So he cannot actually be perceived. The verses avan manasa gochara. Avan manasa gochara means that he cannot be perceived by material senses. And he cannot be understood in that way either. So it said that in the prayers that they had offered Krishna, it says that rather than entering the womb of Devaki, he was already there. He's already in every atom as super soul. Kshirodakshai Vishnu, he's everywhere. But the rascals talks about in text 18, let's go to text 18 and we'll read that one, and that way you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. He says that a rascal doesn't acknowledge the soul. So one who considers his visible body, which is a product of the three modes of nature, to be independent of the soul is unaware of the basis of existence, and therefore he is a rascal. He's a rascal. So those who are learned have rejected this conclusion because one can understand through full discussion that with no basis in soul, the visible body and senses would be insubstantial. In other words, they wouldn't actually exist. All the material elements gather around the soul. The soul uses this vehicle for a period of time, and then it casts it off. Just like we see many animals cast off a body. I was just hearing the other day about lobsters. You know the story of how that a lobster, the shell doesn't really grow. Did you know that? So in a lobster, the lobster manifests a shell, and then he outgrows it, and he has to leave the shell and manifest another shell. He has to continually do that. So in the same way, as we go through 8,400,000 species in this material world, we cast off these shells of the material body. It's nothing but a shell. Just like you change the shirt. You can wear the shirt, then you can cast it off. Then you can put on another shirt. So you are not the shirt. You are the spirit soul inside. But a rascal thinks he is his material body. So therefore he acts under the influence of the three modes of material nature and becomes entangled in karmic retribution that he has created by the concoction of his own mind. This is a concoction. He's created this illusion, and he's trying to extract sense gratification from it. When he can't extract sense gratification from it, it becomes very angry. And anger leads to madness. And of course, we know how that ends up. It doesn't end up very well. So the prayers here, they say that this whole world takes place automatically. It's automatic. Krishna doesn't have to work hard. toiling like we do in the material world. He simply thinks it and exists. All he has to do is think. We're thinking, feeling, and willing, and therefore what we think actually comes into existence in due course of time. But with Krishna, everything is very automatic. He's not laboring hard. He's not worried about it. It's not a problem. So when does he come? He comes yada yada hi dharmasya, glanir bhavati bharata, bhutanam hi dharmasya, tadatmanam srijam yaham. He comes again whenever there's a decline in religious principles and a predominant rise of irreligion. At that time, the Lord always descends himself. And we've talked about multiple incarnations where God has come for the benefit of the world again and again and again and again and again. So here he's coming in his original form of Krishna. In other forms, he came as a dwarf. He may have come as half man, half lion, a horse. He may have come as a fish, a tortoise. He may have come in a variety of different ways, even as Vasudeva is the Vedas. Veda Vyasa says the Vedas. So, but every time he comes for the purpose of liberating us. And he says, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, chakta deham panarjanma, naiti mam meti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains to my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So, what's the goal? To understand the nature of his appearance. That's why this chapter is so very, 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 very important. So, desiring to protect this world and to kill all the armies of the demons and alleviate the burden of the world, Krishna comes again and again and again. What is it? What's the verse? Pritranaya Sadanam Vinashya Chadushkatam Dharma Samsta Panartayam Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. So he's coming again and again and again to establish the principles of religion, annihilate the miscreants. So here, Devaki says that certainly you will kill all the armies of the demons, which are kings, but are really just dressed as kings because really they're demons and they're burdening the earth and exploiting civilization. So in text 20, she says, my Lord, your form is transcendental to the three modes. Yet for the maintenance of the three worlds, you assume these various forms, which, he talks about the white, red, and blackish form of the Lord. So she says, you've now appeared in my house. You have now appeared in my house, desiring to protect this world. And I'm sure that you will kill all the armies that are moving all over the world under the leadership of politicians who are dressed as Kshatriya rulers, but who are factually demons. They must be killed by you for the protection of the innocent public. So after everything is done, everything is finished, everything is withdrawn back into the Lord, Ananta Shesha Naga, he still remains as the Lord. And then again, everything is manifest again and annihilated again and again and again. At the end of the day of Brahma, when Brahma goes to sleep, it's a partial annihilation. Yeah, Vamsi, you got a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. So on the verse 20, said that the Lord appears in white, red, and black in goodness, passion, and ignorance. Passion is red, and then ignorance is black. So we read about the Varaha avatar coming as red. Is that the same that is mentioned here?
I wish you would do a little research for us. So you've got, while I'm speaking, if you would look that up on the Wikipedia, I would really appreciate that, because if you go to the verse itself, and even if you go to the purport, it does not tell you that. So,
Okay.
but in the verse it says, it talks about Krishnam Cha, the quality of darkness, and the color Tamasa. So he talks about that. So let's see. Let's make sure we're doing the right verse here. Hold on just a moment. Yeah, there you go. So he discusses that rajasa, quality of passion. So yeah, I would like it if you would look that up for us, because I read the purport on that, and it says that whiteness is the symbolic representation of the absolute truth because it is unaffected by the material qualities. Lord Brahma is called Rakta, or red, because Brahma represents the qualities of passion, creation. Darkness is entrusted to Lord Shiva. So I think they're talking about Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu in this situation. So that's my take on it, and that's what I gathered from the purport itself. So because the Lord does come in those capacities, and it says the creation, annihilation, and maintenance of the cosmic manifestation are conducted by your potencies, yet you are always unaffected by those qualities. Okay, so I think that's the answer you're looking for.
Yes, Prabhuji, because we know that Gunavataras are Vishnu in the mode of goodness, Brahma in the mode of passion, and Shiva in the mode of ignorance. So
Yeah, that would be it. That would be the answer to that. Because if you look at other incarnations, you see that Balaram, for an example, is white.
Mm.
And you see that Krishna is darkish like a monsoon cloud. We see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is golden.
Cool.
So, and then we see that Lord Ramchandra is kind of a greenish hue, right? So when you think about that, the Lord loves all these varieties of colors. He's quite the creative dancer in our hearts. He is dancing in our heart. So, but if you go back to that, she goes on to say, and I think this is her speaking here, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back to see if it's her or is this Devaki speaking? I believe it is. But she says, you have now appeared in my house, desiring to protect this world. So he goes on to say that no one in the world is free from birth or death. No one, not even in the highest planet, Brahmaloka. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Abrahma bhuvana loka, loko yam karma bandhana. In other words, even if you go all the way back to the highest planet in this material world, you will experience death, right? You'll experience death. So the idea is that whatever you do in worship of the demigods in the material world, that result is temporary. It's temporary because it exists within the material sphere. But whatever you do for Vishnu, Krishna, which is transcendental, exists permanently as meritorious result for you as you go higher and higher in the spiritual sky. So it says that you're invisible to those who see with material eyes. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I do not reveal myself to those mudhas, those grossly foolish persons. He does not reveal himself. And so she wanted him to be invisible to Kamsa, or to be able to not understand that he is actually taking his birth. She was looking to protect her child. So she wanted him to withdraw this form because no one would understand this form in the material world. It's not natural to the material world to see Vishnu, four-handed Vishnu, Narayan. So, and she felt like she would have been ridiculed and possibly, who knows? I mean, what would happen to her if they found out that God was her child like that? Well, we know one thing that would happen, and that would be that Kamsa himself would want to kill that child. So she asked the Lord to please become like a natural human child so that she may hide him somewhere. Just see the instinct of a mother. She's always seeking to protect her child. And so she is the greatest, really, of all yogis. Honestly, she's the greatest of all yogis. And what did she do? she and Sutapa, who was obviously the most pious Prajapati previously anyway, they ate only air and dry leaves as austerity to earn the favor of the Lord. And so they performed these severe austerities. And Krishna said, you underwent severe austerities so that I could become your son. So where's that verse at? It says, which one is that one? I want to see. I don't know where that one is, but he says to them that they ate only dry leaves and air. I thought that was pretty cool. So then after that, oh, here it is, text 34 and 35. No wonder I couldn't find it. I was on number 28. 34 and 35 says, my dear father and mother, you endured rain, wind, strong sun, scorching heat, and severe cold, suffering all sorts of inconvenience according to the different seasons by practicing pranayama to control the air within body through yoga, and by eating only air and dry leaves fall on the trees. You cleansed your mind of all dirty things. In this way, desiring a benediction from me, you worship me with peaceful minds. They underwent 12,000 celestial years of a difficult tapasya. So Krishna is not cheap. Krishna is not cheap. If you want to go buy a shiny, sparkly stone, you can buy cut glass. It's very inexpensive. And you can be cheated, actually. Sometimes they sell these sparkly stones as diamonds or whatever. They're artificial. They're not real. And so you pay an exorbitant price for something that's not even real. That's what you get in the material world. But Krishna is the most valuable of all diamonds. As a matter of fact, the Hope diamond was in Ramachandra's helmet, and the British took it to India as the crown jewel. Did you know that? You heard that?
The Kohinoor diamond?
Yeah, I think it's the Hope diamond, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. I could be wrong. You can look it up.
Okay.
But there was a diamond in the helmet of the Lord, and the British crown jewels came from India, from the temple there. And I believe that they were, and you might look that up for me, as a matter of fact. So you can see that the Lord is not easy to obtain. However, in this age of Kali, in this age, the Lord is very easy to obtain. Matter of fact, as easy as stepping over the water that exists in the hoof print of a cow. That's said at least twice that I know of in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and the reason it is because we're a very sinful age. We don't live very long. We have limited intelligence. We're filled with quarrel. We've lost all truth. We've lost almost every principle of religion, cleanliness, mercy, austerity. And now truth is being destroyed by fake news and by, everyone simply lying and to get what they want in this material world. People will steal, they'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll even kill to get what they want. And this is described in the Bhagavatam as well. Even great kings did that. We see Kamsa it was willing to kill his own sister to save his skin. Only reason he didn't do it was because of his reputation. And he even imprisoned his own father and took over his kingdom while his father was being imprisoned. Ugrasena. So it says here, this is a point that I want to share with you that I think is important. So being a husband and wife, always sonless, you were attracted by sexual desires by the influence of Deva Maya, transcendental love. You wanted to have me as your son. Now we need to stop here just a second, and we need to understand the difference between what he's talking about is transcendental love and material love. Material love means that I am cheating you for my own selfish purposes. In other words, I will exploit your body for my pleasure. And that is the materialistic love that we're talking about. Transcendental love has nothing to do with lust. It has nothing at all to do with lust, like we're seeing in the material world. So, it says that Krishna appeared in Vasudev's mind and illuminated everywhere. And then he was transferred to the heart of Devaki. And then there was a childbirth, but she couldn't understand what happened at all. She was we'll hear this in the next chapter. I won't give it away. We'll save that for the next chapter. But he actually appeared before them fully bedecked in all regalia, and then appeared before them as a small child. So he then he gave them the benediction that they wanted, and they had a son just like him. So he couldn't find anybody else as highly elevated in simplicity. Now think about that. In simplicity. See, simplicity, simple living, high thinking. This is what Prabhupada taught us. Simple living. Simplicity is a good thing, because if we're complex, if we're trying to rationalize our activities, you know what they say about a lie. It's so difficult to lie because you might not remember the previous lie you told, which would substantiate the new lie you just told. So it can become very, very confusing for you. If you ever lie, you'll find yourself in a vicious circle of lies, and it perpetuates itself. So this material lust is totally different. It's a lie. Material lust is a lie. And the reason it's a lie is because you are not meant to be God. You're meant to be a part of God. You're meant to serve God. The hand itself can't exist separate from the whole body, and it doesn't work in tandem with the body when it's separated. It may flap around a little while like a fish out of water, but soon it's dead. It has no purpose. It has no use. So when we look around in the material world, one of the things that I have to tell you, I've seen so many people, friends that I've known over the last 7 decades, and their whole lives were spent either just raising their children, and then their children left, and everything ended up in despair, and they just died. And all they got was the trouble that it took. Or they had a business that they were so dedicated to, they worked literally 24 hours a day for the money. But then the money disappeared somehow, right? They couldn't protect the money. And so the money was lost. So all of that work was also in vain. So unless we can somehow or another dovetail our activities with the Supreme Lord, then our activities are like, our breathing actually is like the bellows of a blacksmith blowing that air. It has no actual real meaning. So if we're going to breathe, we need to breathe for Krishna. We need to live for Krishna. We need to offer everything. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where it says, whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, do as a sacrifice to me. Yagyartit karma nonyacha loko yom karma bandhan. In other words, do everything that you do as a sacrifice for me. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in 7.3, Manushyam sahasreshu. He talks about out of many thousands among men, maybe one will endeavor for perfection. But even out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one even knows me in truth. So unfortunately, we're struggling. It says, Daivi Yesha Gunamaya. So it talks about this divine energy of mind consisting of 3 modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered to me, they can easily cross beyond it. This is what we're talking about, like stepping over the water in a calf's footprint. So, so he became their son, and then he transformed into this small child, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So there you go. Now, when they left the prison house, all the doors open. They were shackled with chains, and all the doors open. And Sheshanaga, which is an expansion of the Lord, like hoods of a snake, acted as an umbrella. I thought that was pretty cool. And not only that, but when he got to the Jamuna River, it was parted. You know, he gives the example of Ramachandra's bridge to Sri Lanka. And you might also look at that Moses Exodus and the parting of the Red Sea, the same kind of thing, you know. So the Lord can do anything he wants to at any time he wants to, any way he wants to, and everything that you see here today is a exercise of the Lord's pleasure potency, because this is created ultimately for his pleasure. It has no other purpose. And we're created as parts and parcels of the Lord for the Lord's pleasure. So fools may deride the Lord when he descends into human form, but that's to their detriment. And they'll never understand his supreme dominion over all that be, because she asked him, Devaki asked him to hide himself from those grossly foolish materialistic people, right? So that happened. But if we're devotees, there's a great verse in the Bhagavad Gita you might know, Satatam Kritayanto Mam, right? You know that one? Yatantas Chad Vridhabratat. That is always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with love and devotion. That's who we want to be. We don't want to be the grossly foolish, right? Mudha. So that's what I've got on this chapter. We're at 8:04. Have you got any questions or anything you want to add, please do at this time. I think we kind of covered this chapter pretty nicely, hopefully. And but if you got any points you would like to make, please do.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One point is Devaki and Vasudeva, they saw that the Lord is Supreme Lord. They saw his paraphernalia, and the Lord tells them that, I came in this form to let you know that I'm the Supreme Lord. But we know in Vrindavan, the Lord doesn't want anybody to know he's Lord. He wants to just be in loving relationship with everybody, as a friend, as a son, or as a lover. But he never shows his real energy, and so it's clear here that in Mathura and Dwaraka he wants his Aishwarya form, and like everybody treats him with awe and reverence. But in Vrindavan, he is just wanting pure love, and that's what our parampara is giving us, right?
Well, there's two kinds of Maya. There's Mahamaya and there's Yoga Maya. So the Lord covers himself so he can have these pastimes of pleasure. It'd be like watching a movie and you're deeply engrossed in the plot of the movie, and there's two beloveds that are going back and forth, and all of a sudden they come out of their role and you see past the veil of their act, and all of a sudden the whole thing is ruined. So you don't want that. That's not what we want. We want to experience God as our own child. And that's what Prishnigarbha did. She wanted the Lord as her own child. So what if the Lord, he came to her at first and said, now, just so you'll know, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here it all is. You can check it out. Now let's go back to the Yoga Maya, which brings the great pleasure and joy of our pastime. So that's the idea behind that. But Mahamaya is totally different. Mahamaya means that we're in the illusion under three modes of material nature. And somehow or another, we think we're the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by the Lord. And by nature, by the nature of the, automatically, it says in this verse, in this chapter. So we have to understand these things in truth, or otherwise we're in Maya. And we might want to be in Yoga Maya, but we don't want to be in Mahamaya. I promise you. So the Lord wants to stay in character for the pleasure potency of the whole thing, and the rasa and that stuff.
Is that why Devaki wanted to protect the Lord, because he covered her with the Yoga Maya, and then she thought that this is just my child and I have to protect him.
Yep. And that was for her pleasure and his pleasure.
Mm.
Just like we studied before, that there's two kinds of actual devotees who are in just servitude, mood of servitude. And one of them is that they want to serve the Lord and they want the protection of the Lord. But when they grow higher in their deeper self-realization, understanding of the Lord, now they feel like they have to protect the Lord. You see what I'm saying? Now they feel like they have to actually protect the Lord. So when we're in a little lesser state, we think we need the protection of the Lord. But when we go higher and higher in these rasas, we may think that we need to protect God. And that is a pleasurable situation that God enjoys and that we enjoy as well. So that's the relationship between Vasudeva Devaki. And in the next chapter, we're going to hear a little bit about Nanda Yasoda. And find out a little bit more about what that's all about. And we're also going to meet Yoga Maya, Durga. We're going to meet Durga here very shortly. And then we're going to find that Krishna's taken his birth and he's been transferred out of there. So there's some pretty cool stuff coming up in the next chapter. Kamsa has a short-lived realization coming up, and he's sorry for what he does, but he gets over it pretty quickly. So the demons, they may be sorry for a little while, but that Mahamaya takes back over. In this case, Yoga Maya. Kamsa, the story of Kamsa. By the way, that was wonderful that you brought that up the last time about Kamsa was killing his own children. That's wonderful that you brought that up. And it's wonderful that these things, see, everything goes around in a circle. We create our own situation by our own desires. The Lord is simply fulfilling that. And he's a self-sufficient fulfiller of all desires since time immemorial. So our goal is to simply have the right desire. And so how do we know what is the right desire? We learn from the Mahajanas. We learn from those like Prahlad Maharaj, who, when asked what boon he would like, he only asked for the liberation of his father. You see what I'm saying? To forgive his father. We just had an Ekadasi, and in that Ekadasi, there's a story that I wanted to tell you. What is that? We just had this Ekadasi just yesterday. We broke fast today.
Amalaki.
Yeah, Amalaki Ekadasi. And it just shows the potency and the power of the Lord to save even the most fallen rascals of all. So there was this one great king who, his whole kingdom, no one sinned in his whole kingdom. No one. His kingdom was literally perfect, and everybody honored the Ekadasi fast. And so they were under a Amalaki tree. By the way, if there's no Tulsi, you can use Amalaki as Tulsi. I did not know that, but I found that out by reading today. Isn't that cool? So in the absence of Tulsi, Amalaki will work just fine. Amalaki, however it's pronounced. So, but anyway, they were out doing this all-night puja, chanting and worshiping the Lord. And this hunter who had simply, all he had ever known was killing and eating. And he went through the forest just killing all kinds of animals and just eating them fairly mercilessly, And so he's watching this puja that took place during the night for Ekadasi, which was a fast and a lot of wonderful chanting and so forth and so on. And he was enamored by that. And he went through the rest of his life still eating animals. And when he finally died, he took his birth as a king. The Lord, just by that one Ekadasi, he became a virtuous king in the world. Just from one Ekadasi. So what I'm trying to say to you is any of this that we're hearing, everything, the holy name of the Lord makes you sinless. These stories will alleviate your bad karma, good karma. You don't need good karma in the material world. You don't want to go to a higher planet just to die. Just to die. And that's the way you have to look at it. Why would I want to go to a heavenly planet just so I can die there? Well, we're still going to die. So the idea is, let's hear these pastimes of the Lord. Let's understand these pastimes of the Lord. Let's add this devotional service to our life, and we'll be happy. Yeyatamam prapadyante, tungstataiva bhajamyaham. So all of them, as they surrender to me, Krishna says, I reward them accordingly. Everyone is actually following the Lord's path in all respects. Because no matter what you do, the Lord is rewarding your acts, your activities. So we should be grateful. That's our first thing we come to, is a sense of abiding gratitude to the Lord for everything that we see. And this life that we have is a portion of the life of God, because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Person. Okay, anything else? We can go on. Now we're at 8:14.
Yeah, Prabhuji, one more point is
Okay.
Krishna Garba and Sutapa, they were doing penance, and that's because the Yuga Dharma during Satya Yuga was doing penance.
Right.
But then in Kali Yuga, we don't have to eat dry leaves or do what they did. We just need to chant the names of the Lord.
Yagyai Sankirtano Prayar means that the sacrifice of this age is Sankirtan Yagya. Yagyai Sankirtano Prayar. So that's the idea. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is it? Krishna Varnam Twisak Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parsadam Yagyai Sankirtano Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. So the Lord came. He came as a golden avatar, and he came to perform Sankirtan Yagya and establish that as the Yuga Dharma. And we know it is from another wonderful, famous verse. What is that verse? It says it 3 times in the verse, that the only way in this Kali Yuga, right? Kalo nasteva 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 gatirantyataha. So that's the idea. So, we're in Kali Yuga. It's different. It's very easy for us to go back home, back to Godhead, like crossing over the water in a calf's hoof print, simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord. So there you go. All right. So the plot is thickening. We're going to meet some demons in the next chapters. We're going to watch the heinous activities of Kamsa. We're going to see the results that happened to him for that. And it is a great adventure. And I wrote a song, and it says, these adventures thrill our hearts and minds. They teach us Krishna's love divine. That's the idea. His adventures teach us love divine. And so when we watch the activities of Krishna, because God is love, we actually then become that love as well when we hear it, because it affects us and awakens us to our natural state of Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please join us next week, same time, same station, and we'll carry forward this wonderful story. Jai. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Haribol. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.